Well, there was, yes, I'm not sure either, so.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. DeCarlo?
Yes. Here.
Mr. Hoffman?
Here.
Mr. Condit?
Here.
Mr. Molina,
Here.
Mr. Walter?
Here.
Approval minutes from January 14th, 2014.
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Condit?
Yes.
Mr. Molina,
Yes.
Mr. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. DeCarlo?
Yes.
Acceptance of financial reports.
Move to accept financial reports.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Condit?
Yes.
Mr. Molina,
Yes.
Mr. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. DeCarlo?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes. Amendments to the agenda.
Yes, I have 4 items. First one is resolution number 13, 2014. I'd like to add to the agenda. It's a resolution to authorize the mayor to enter into an agreement for the purchase of a 2014 GMC Sierra 1500 4-wheel drive crew cab short bed and equipment for use in the fire department from Bob Ross Buick for a sum not to exceed $29,800.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Molina,
Yes.
Mr. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. DeCarlo?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Condit?
Yes. Second item is to add resolution number 14, 2014, a resolution to authorize the mayor to enter into a police K-9 purchase and school training agreement with XL K-9 Services, Inc. for a sum not to exceed $11,800.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. DeCarlo?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Condit?
Yes.
Mr. Molina?
Yes. Third item, to add resolution number 15, 2014, authorizing the mayor to execute a purchase agreement with Two Rembar Company LLC for the purchase of a 3.1181 acre parcel of real property located at the corner of Glenwood Boulevard and Liberty Road for a sum not to exceed $1,232,000.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. DeCarlo?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Condit?
Yes.
Mr. Molina,
Yes.
Mr. Walter?
Yes.
And the final item is to add resolution number 16, 2014, a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor to execute a memorandum of agreement with the Summit Soil and Water Conservation District and declaring an emergency.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Condit?
Yes.
Mr. Molina,
Yes.
Mr. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. DeCarlo?
Yes.
Any other amendments to the agenda? No? One, two, Good. Comments from the public, 30 minutes maximum time, 5 minutes per person. State your name and address.
Al Williams, 105-894 Street. I would like to thank Deborah for giving me the 2014 budget, and I would also like to tell her that the way it was arranged was much easier to follow than the way the 2010 that I was comparing to did. But I compared 2014 to 2010 to see how things look between what has happened in 4 years. The mayor's budget increased by 256% over that, or it's 256% of that in 2010. This was mainly due to the change in salary from $13,000 to $30,000, which is an increase of 230%. The additional would be the OPERS and other expenses, so that's why his went up. This change in salary came about because we listened to the fact that it was done. It was due to the amount of time the mayor was spending on village projects and the time that he spends in the office each day. Council's budget increased by 134% when compared to 2010. However, in 2010, there were legal fees of $62,240, which compares only to $8,000 being budgeted this year in 2014. That $62,240 was the result of some of the problems that we were having in 2009 and the legal fees that were accrued that still needed to be paid. I therefore made another comparison of 2014 to the 2012 budget, and that brings the increase that they are making, or their budget is 199% of that of 2012. The budget only shows a total of $5,810 for medical and dental insurance for council, and the newspaper indicated the cost could add an additional $32,000 more to the village budget if all take the insurance. This would then increase the percentage even higher. Fiscal officer's budget would be 103% of the 2010 budget. Now, I know what has happened out in the central office here would have changed that budget slightly, but again, this is a very small increase. When comparing the fire and service departments, theirs would be 115% of the 2010 budget, and the police department is at 140% in comparison. Considering the responsibilities and time on duty, the increase for council seems quite out of line to me. Also, when considering an increase of insurance would be for compensation that may not be following Article 1.14 of the Charter. While in the Charter, I also noticed that Article 16.02, the responsibilities and duties of Finance Committee, may not be being followed. When serving on council, I was an elected employee and not a full-time employee. Also, I considered myself a public servant since it was the citizens of the community that elected me to office, and the compensation was back then a part-time employee. In any other world, part-time employees do not receive any insurance compensation. In closing, I was also amazed that the empty chair referred to at the last meeting by a member of council was filled at both special meetings in December, and that person moved to bring the resolutions to the floor. Also, it is amazing that neither of these meetings were recorded for broadcast. And that's all I have to say. I just feel right now that we need to take some time and think about whether or not what we're spending is more than we have.
Thank you, Bob.
Gary Williams, 10589 Florida Street. All I want to say is, whether I like the fact they have insurance or whether I don't like the fact that they voted themselves insurance, they went about it in a sort of sneaky, underhanded way. They called for 2 special meetings in December, late December, when I'm sure they assumed that the public wouldn't be here and know what was going on. Then they used somebody who was absent most of the last 6 months of the year to do their work for them by presenting it to the floor and voting it for the emergency passage and all this. I thought when this council was elected that it would be a lot different than the council previously, and it sort of was and is in some ways, but it seems like they're slipping back into their old ways of doing things in a manner that's not quite on the up and up.
Thank you.
Bill Jones, 3565 Castaway Cove. For your help. Last meeting, I gave you some definitions and everything from federal. From the Ohio Revised Code, employee, again, it states employee includes any elected or appointed official of a political subdivision, which I believe council is. Again, from the Ohio Revised Code, compensation means money, thing of value, or financial benefit. Down a little further, public agency applies to villages. So I don't, unless I'm wrong, I don't feel that our charter, because at the last meeting I was told that you're not considered employees. That by charter you're public officials, elected officials, whatever. According to the Ohio Revised Code, you are employees. So that would mean you're in violation of our charter, because our charter says employees must be full-time to get health care. A couple questions that Mr. DiCarlo, if you could tell me that at the special meeting on December 19th, when you gentlemen were discussing the health care, it states, Mr. Carlo replied, by voting yes, it is basically giving a raise to council members. and you tell me why, then you voted yes.
Am I supposed to respond to?
You can or you cannot. I would just say this, it was stated the last time, Mr. Jones, that, and I know this provision is relatively new, parts of it are going to take effect and parts are not, but the Affordable Care Act is going to not differentiate between full-time and part-time. And I think the idea was to bring it into compliance with that as much as possible. And I know that that act was brought forward a little bit after the charter was enacted. And I think that's what this council was thinking. I was not present at the meeting, but I know that my discussions with the mayor were along those lines. We're a little bit worried about coming into compliance with that.
Yeah, but at the meeting, Mr. DeCarlos stated, and I'm just quoting from the minutes, that you felt it would be.
The minutes speak for themselves then. I mean, if he
Oh,
doesn't want to
okay.
answer it.
I just-
Oh, no, I answered, I just didn't know if I.
You don't have to respond to it now.
You can,
The minutes
you can,
speak for themselves.
A lot of it has to do with what Paul just stated, of why I ended up voting yes.
Okay, according to the ACA, and I'm not aware of how many the village has, but it says if you have fewer than 50 full-time equivalent employees, you are not subject to the employer shared responsibility parts of the law. Like I said, I don't know how many we have, and that's, I mean, we have quite a few part-time, but then you follow their formula, and if it comes out to 50 full-time, then you have to offer it. If we don't have 50 full-time, why is it being offered? Also at the December 19th meeting, Mr. Connick stated, Mr. Connick feels health care benefits are for full-time employees and he does not see council as full-time employees. I just bring that up as further argument that you're not full-time. Mr. Walters stated that they had discussions about this before, and some are for it and some are against it, and he would just like to bring it to a vote. Now, that comment and the fact from the last meeting, Mr. Carpenter replied that you and Mr. Molina had discussed this in June. If that's the fact that you gentlemen had discussed this prior, and especially in June, you had July, August, September, and October. October could have been your first reading, but yet you waited to have a special meeting and then pass it by emergency. And the reply to that by Mr. Silverstein was that it was so that you could enroll by the first of the year. But you still had a lot of time to be able to do that prior to having to have an emergency meeting for, or an emergency resolution. And again, as far as the charter, it was brought up in a meeting stating not less than 120 days prior to the term, which December 19th would have been more or less than in that period of time. Again, at the last meeting, Mr. Carpenter, when I asked him about the compensation, Mr. Carpenter agreed that it's not clear. He stated he discussed this with Mr. Molina in June when they were first discussing the topic. Later, Mr. Carpenter feels it's not clear as to whether this is going to be determined as an interim raise or not. Mayor Alonso, some say you give, he was talking about the seminars that they had gone to. Some say you should give them health care and some say it's pretty rare. So this is not a definitive answer. With all of that, we're not sure, it's not definitive. Why didn't you wait until you had a definitive answer? You had fact and then moved ahead with it. Why did you have to rush into it at a special meeting and make it an emergency resolution? Again, I guess that's a question that they don't have to answer. So.
Becky, 2992 Pirates Road. Why don't you have to answer the people of your community?
These are comments. I think if you meet these people out on the street, they'll answer your questions the best they can.
You wanna go outside? I mean,
Well, I'm not during a council meeting.
I mean, I don't
These are
understand, I don't
comments from the
understand your
public.
reticence, I don't, I'm not up on all these things, but I get a bad feeling when you sit up there and go, we don't have to answer you. You know, I don't know all these facts that they're talking about, but I'm just talking generally. Do you understand?
I understand what you're saying.
And you
Absolutely. I
don't
think you're
care,
right.
you just don't wanna answer these people.
No, first off.
These are not questions to me. I'm not a member of the council.
But you're jumping in and saying nobody has to answer.
He's the lawyer.
So, oh, okay.
He's the attorney.
See, I don't, that's what I'm
He's the
saying.
attorney for council.
Okay. So you're advising them not to answer?
I did, did I say
No,
that?
no,
Did I say that?
he's given
I
us
see a
their
problem with
options.
that. You're getting something other than what I'm saying.
I'm hearing something other than what's coming out of your mouth, yes.
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 Anybody else?
Everybody is 10589 Florida Street. I think they should be willing to answer because it was the members of the public that voted them into office, so why shouldn't they give a reason as to why they did this? I mean, why can't they or why shouldn't they answer the public back when the public are the ones who put them in office?
Frankly, I'll tell you why. Because from my standpoint, and I'm not one of the members of council that's going to have his feet held to the fire, but from a legal standpoint, if there were going to be litigation, let's say, or a claim filed with some government agency, I certainly wouldn't want a statement made that, you know, you're speaking off the cuff here. I wouldn't want a statement made that would come back and harm a member of council or the council as a whole or the village of Reminderville. So Mr. Jones already had the statements that were made by Mr. Silverson, Mr. DiCarlo, Mr. Walter, and Mr. Carpenter. He already had those statements. They don't need to be explained any further. The minutes speak for themselves, and I don't want one of these people to step on their toes.
Well,
or
that's
on the
not my
council's
intent to do that, but I
Can't
just
you
wondered
hear from the
because-
tone of this?
Pardon?
I can hear from the tone of this that they are questioning a legal matter, matters that you can discuss in executive session away from the prying ears of the public. I certainly would want, that's my job, is to protect the village of Reminderville. So if I think someone's about to say something I don't like that may harm the village or may harm our interests, I'm gonna say, don't answer it. Keep your mouth closed. If they wanna pursue it further, then we can answer it at a later date. I agree with you that we owe answers to the public. I certainly agree with that. That's why the meetings are held in public. But there are certain speech that is protected. And certainly I think most lawyers would advise their clients not to speak if it's going to be something that they didn't mean to say. I mean, if he wants to clear an answer with me first, maybe I would let him speak. Until I know what he's gonna say, I'm gonna recommend not answering it.
Well, there's one thing I think I can answer. What was your, Al, you said something about council's budget is up how much?
99% over 2010.
Council,
Council as a
Council
whole.
budget.
council's whole budget.
Because I know that,
Does that include travel?
that's what I
That
mean.
includes the whole budget. I took the
Yeah.
figures she gave this year for the total for budget
Okay.
and the figures they had for 2010, and I divided this year's by 2010's and came up with 199%. Same way I came up with 103% for hers,
Right.
but her budget dropped drastically this year because of the reconstruction of the main office.
The one, I do want to clarify, and I don't think Paul would have an issue with me doing this. Our salaries only went up 20%. And the reason why it did that, went from 6,000 to 7,200. Basically, the state of Ohio, I wouldn't say made us do that, but to keep up with the state of Ohio's minimum requirements, we had to raise it 20%. We raised it the minimum we had to do to stay with the state of Ohio.
And you realize I'm looking back what council made in 2010, which was not 6,000.
It sure was, when I started council, it was
In
6,000.
2010?
Uh-huh. Sure was.
Well, I recall it being 250 when I started, and when I left it was 500.
Not in 2010, it was not.
You were here before I left. You were one of the people that got the raise beforehand. You see, there.
I don't know what it was before when
Yeah.
I.
The people who were already on council were making less than what you were because the raise had taken effect after they had taken office. So that made that figure much lower back then than what it. Now, the following year, when everybody rolled into the 6,000, then it went up in 2012, 2011.
2010 to 2014.
So you had half of the council on the increase and half. that
Right,
was-
half, well, it wasn't really half, it was 10 of them. I
Two
think
and
I was,
four.
2 people were higher
But it was a
than
percentage,
the
whether
other
a
4
third
that
or a
were
half.
seated when they came to council. They got the raise, the 4 didn't until afterwards. I didn't return to council after that.
I just wanted to clarify some of that.
Did you have your hand up in the back? No. Oh, anybody else? No? All right, table legislation is gonna stay tabled. Legislation Resolution 08, 2014, a resolution appointing David J. Riley as special counsel to represent and advise Mayor Alonso and council with regard to planning, financing, construction of proposed village recreation center project. First reading.
Mayor, does this need to go back?
I would say so, because you're moving fairly quickly on that. I know he's already done work
Yeah, he's done more.
for the village, he's already earned some money. I would say do it by emergency.
Then I would move to suspend the rules to pass by emergency.
Second.
Roll call, suspension of rules.
Mr. Condit?
Yes.
Mr. Molina,
Yes.
Mr. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. DeCarlo?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Move to pass by emergency.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Molina,
Yes.
Mr. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. DeCarlo?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Condit?
Yes.
Resolution 9, 2014, a resolution appointing Frode Anderson to the Communications Committee. Does this need to be? Or we can just do it next week?
When's their next meeting?
Oh, we got that. First reading. Resolution 10, 2014, resolution authorizing the direct mayor to sell one used police cruiser, a 2008 Ford Crown Victoria. I'm not gonna do the VIN number. To the Somerset Police Department for the sum of $5,000. Need this by emergency? Is it ready to go?
Mr. Mayor, that'd be nice, they've already paid us.
Okay.
Move to suspend the rules to pass by emergency.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. DeCarlo?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Condit?
Yes.
Mr. Molina,
Yes.
Move to pass by emergency.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. DeCarlo?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Condit?
Yes.
Mr. Molina,
Yes.
Mr. Walter?
Yes.
Can I ask real quick, where is Somerset?
Southern Ohio, I think.
Southern Ohio.
Southern Ohio?
Resolution 11, 2014, a resolution appointing Walter Hoffman to the Village of Reminderville Board of Zoning and Building Appeals and declaring emergency.
Move to pass.
Suspend the rules.
No, it's already declaring an emergency. I don't think they
No, it's first reading.
It's first reading.
move to suspend the rules to pass by emergency.
Second.
Roll call.
Look, we have some discussion here. I think I'm going to be obligated not to vote on this. You only have 4 votes.
You can abstain, and your abstention then goes with the,
Majority.
So they need to still pass by emergency.
Roll call.
Mr. Hoffman?
Abstain?
Mr. Condit?
Yes.
Mr. Molina,
Yes.
Mr. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. DeCarlo?
Yes.
Move to pass by emergency.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Condit?
Yes.
Mr. Molina,
Yes.
Mr. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. DeCarlo?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Abstain?
Resolution 12, 2014, a resolution to purchase 2 handheld thermal cameras from Optimum Energy Products Ltd. for a sum not to exceed $22,425.26. Need this by emergency. No, I don't. No, first reading. Resolution 13-2014, a resolution authorizing the mayor into an agreement for the purchase of a 2014 GMC Sierra 1500 four-wheel drive crew cab short bed and equipment for use in the fire department from Bob Ross Buick for sum not to exceed $28,305.87. First reading. Let's stay at first reading, you know.
I believe they would like to pass that on.
Can I, where's the money coming from?
The fire vehicle acquisition fund that was already appropriated,
We appropriate?
Yeah.
30,000.
Just out of curiosity, did we get a mileage reading on the old one?
The medic one that this is gonna replace, about 50,000, I think.
What happened to that one? Did we
It's still
trade
there.
it in or sell it?
Now it's still,
Where is
It's still over there.
there's some discussion on what they're gonna do with it, but it's still in use.
What was the mileage?
They wanna know why you're worried about the mileage.
This isn't replacing, this is an addition to Metaphor?
It's gonna replace it.
I was just curious how much we got out of it for the old one.
Well, it's a 19, what year is it? 85 or something?
I don't know.
I think his main reason for replacing these is,
It's about 20 years old.
they have,
I didn't know, that's why I was
they
asking.
have standards which you have to meet, and it's recommended after a certain amount of time that these vehicles be
Well, I know,
replaced.
my view's 10 years old, I wish I could replace that.
They have insurance and liability purposes too, I believe.
It may affect that, I don't know, but I know.
Spend 500,000 on a big truck. And you go question.
I'm the ambulance, I'm not the fire truck.
All right.
I don't want to ride to the hospital in a 25-year-old truck. I move to suspend the rules to pass by emergency.
Do we, are we doing that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Roll call, suspension of rules.
Mr. Molina? Yes. Mr. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. DeCarlo?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Kind?
Yes.
Move to pass by emergency.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. DeCarlo?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Kind? Mr. Molina?
Yes.
Resolution 14-2014, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a police canine purchase and school training agreement with XL Canine Services Incorporated for a sum not to exceed $11,800. First reading. Is that right? Yeah, because puppy's just born. Resolution 15-2014, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a purchase agreement with Two Rimwar Company LLC for the purchase of 3.1181 acres parcel of real property located at the corner of Glenwood Boulevard, Liberty Road for sum not to exceed $1,232,000. First reading.
Good. Did Mr. Riley have any comments on that?
He had not emailed me back by the end of the day.
Okay.
Check real quick before the-
There's no vote on it, it's gonna be first reading, no.
I'm gonna leave it first reading. Resolution 16-2014, resolution authorizing and directing the mayor to execute a memorandum agreement with the Summit Soil and Water Conservation District declaring an emergency.
Move to suspend the rules and pass by emergency.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. DeCarlo?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Kind?
Yes.
Mr. Molina,
Yes.
Mr. Walter?
Yes. Move to pass by emergency.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Kind?
Yes.
Mr. Molina,
Yes.
Mr. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. DeCarlo?
Yes.
Any old business? Any new business?
Yeah, I want to make a comment. I think that is a real honor that you are.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Any other?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Kind?
Yes.
Mr. Molina,
Yes.
Mr. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. DeCarlo?
Yes.
Yes.
Guys, before you let it write, things on the agreement.
Stacy, as far as, resolution for the GM receipt truck. You're just gonna change that on there, the sentence words.